Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Salam Media. I'm your host for this evening, Dhakir Dawood. It is now 1 minute past 7, and I'm going to take you through the next hour of the show. Yep, we do know that the sporting seasons are coming to an end. We've got a jam-packed show lined up for you. First up, we're going to be chatting all things Champions League football. Yes, Liverpool do take on Real Madrid this weekend in what is the 66th final of European Cup football. Well, who's going to win this one? Is it Real Madrid or is it Liverpool? Stay tuned and you're going to find out more from South Africa's favorite journalist. We've got Lorenz, Kohler on the line with us, and we've also got Mpho, Mutloane that's with us. That's going to be telling us a bit more about that. Later on, we're going to be chatting to Dstv, sports broadcaster, and she is the current media manager of the Lions cricket team. She has, however, went over to the Fairbreak Invitational that took place in Dubai earlier this year. And she's going to tell us a bit more about her broadcasting experience over in the Middle East. Then we're wrapping up the show with our profile interview of the week. We're going to be chatting to International Cricket Council umpire Alauddin Palika, who made his international test debut earlier this year between South Africa and India. And he's going to give us a bit more insight on what it's like to be an umpire and tell us a bit about his journey in cricket. He did start with the bat and ball in hand. This time, he drops the bat and ball, raises his fingers and arms for sixes and wickets. Well, that's Alauddin Palika. He's going to tell us a bit more about that later on. But first up, let's chat all things football. The Champions League final is one sleep away. Six-time champions Liverpool will be taking on the most crowned European champions in Real Madrid, who have won the title 13 times. With Liverpool missing out narrowly on the league last weekend, Man City winning the league on the final day. Do they have a point to prove this weekend? Or Real Madrid, on the other hand, the team that's won the Spanish league already, they know what it's like to win European titles. Can they keep that success up in the Champions League one more time against Liverpool, who have a point to prove? A quadruple messed up. Now they're just looking to settle for the Champions League. Well, that's why we've got an award-winning journalist, one of the best in South Africa. Many look to him when they look for football news in this country. Lorenz, good evening. Thank you for joining me on the show. It's always a pleasure chatting all things football with you, man.
Thanks for having me, and you're putting me on the spot now. I
Come
don't
on,
have all
man.
I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I'm gonna try my best to inform and entertain tonight.
Well, you're not alone. You're going to be joined by Mpho, who's going to tell us a bit more of his side of the story and also put us in line if we're stepping out. Mpho, good evening. Thanks for joining me on the show. Always a pleasure having you two gentlemen on the show. Actually, it's Lorenz's first time on the show. But hey, let's make magic. Here we are.
Let's
Yes,
go.
let's make magic.
Gentlemen, first things first. Liverpool, Real Madrid. Real Madrid have been having a successful season thus far. I mean, they come from behind victories in the Champions League. They've upset teams that looked unstoppable. The likes of Man City, who thought they wrapped the Champions League semi-final up in the first leg. Real Madrid came back and won in spectacular fashion. Lorenz, your take on Real Madrid's season thus far?
Look, when Ancelotti came back, a lot of people knew that he's gonna bring that stability back to the club. But I mean, not many would have predicted that they would have the season that they've had now. With like Vinny Jr. didn't look like the player that he is this season. Um, and it just looked like they lacked some firepower and that star quality. I mean, but Benzema's been ridiculous. Hazard hasn't come through for them. Gareth Bale has had a shocker of a season, and for me, I think Real Madrid have nothing to lose. They've already wrapped up the title. They've performed beyond their expectations. But yeah, Liverpool are probably the favorites going into the final. So I just think from a Real Madrid perspective, they have nothing to lose as long as they can have somebody like Casemiro in the team, because you can see how crucial he is when he is in the team. It can make a big difference. So I think Liverpool will also feel less pressure now that they've lost actually the Premier League, as weird as that may sound, because there was that whole, quadruple thing going around for the past few months. It probably put on a little bit of pressure on them. But yeah, Liverpool are definitely the favourites. But it's a evenly poised game for me, in my opinion.
Well, we're gonna have to wait until tomorrow to see. Mpho, looking at both teams, I mean, Lorenz gave us a brief breakdown on what the Real Madrid team will be looking like, what we can expect from them. I mean, from a Liverpool perspective, what did you make of their season thus far, and do you think they can take it all the way?
Look, it's been a phenomenal season. I don't think any team in English football has had a season like they've had before. Yes, they didn't win the Premier League, but they were 15 minutes away from winning the Premier League. And to a certain extent, being having won the domestic double, looking at the Champions League, putting down the points that they have this season, they can pat themselves on the back and say, "Yes, we lost to Man City, but we gave ourselves a chance in every four." And if you're a Liverpool fan or a Liverpool supporter, wherever you are, that's what you want from your club. You want your club to give you a shot in all the trophies that they are in. And my worry for tomorrow night is that they're tired. That they've played over 60 games with a squad. They've got some squad depth, but you saw even in the final few weeks in the Premier League, they were just getting a little bit leggy. They were getting a little tired. Mo Salah looked a little bit tired. He looked leggy in the FA Cup final. They took him off after I think it was 30 minutes to go. He only played 18 minutes in that second last round of fixtures, and so that's essentially where my worry is with Liverpool. On paper, they should win this game. This is theirs, because this season for Real Madrid is a I wouldn't say luck, but it's one of those seasons where they came up against the Chelsea side. They were behind, and they got through in the end as well. PSG, same thing. They were behind. They came through against Manchester City. They did that, and in those three fixtures, they were underdogs all the way through. They come into this final as underdogs. The only thing that Real Madrid has is history. They've been to 9 consecutive finals in the Champions League and the UEFA Cup, and they've won all 9. So they've got that. On top of that, they've got this comeback story this season. Whereas this Liverpool side is the best side you could find in Europe. And they are coming up, and they're there. The only difference is that they lost to Real Madrid in 2018, and so they might have that on the back of their heads. But I'm hoping tomorrow it's just gonna, like, the defenders tomorrow are gonna be in a lot of trouble. Trent Alexander-Arnold on one end against Vinny Jr. You've also got Robertson and Diaz going up against Daniel Carvajal. You've got Mane in that center, in that number 9 role, against Nacho and Militao. You've also got Benzi against Virgil and probably even Konate. That's pretty much where the game's going to be won or lost, is who's going to take most of their chances. And for Real Madrid, a one-off game is the perfect thing, because literally you can do a smash and grab like they did against Chelsea, like they did against PSG, like they did against Manchester City. They are believing that there's some sort of myth with them. They left Madrid saying Madrid never lose finals. They don't, but we might see something different tomorrow.
You've mentioned some quality matchups there, and you know what? If there's one matchup that I would have loved to see happen once more, would have been the Mo Salah Sergio Ramos battle. Obviously, this time around, Lorenz, no concussions this season around. No Ramos as well. I mean, this final, the last one, didn't live up to expectations. Um, do you think this final will be the one that Mini has been waiting for such a long time in European football?
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's two clubs that notably, they're not in the business of sitting back and playing with a low block and waiting for one counter attack. It's gonna be pound for pound. If there's any team that will probably try and be a little bit more methodical and reserved, it's probably gonna be Madrid, because everybody knows if you go pound for pound, like, attack Liverpool, you're gonna get chowed.
Mm.
It's no sugarcoating that Sadio Mane, Salah is going to get you. You know what I mean? And obviously, with the strength of Liverpool with their fullback positions, that's something that they exploit many teams with doubling up on their fullbacks. So if you look at Madrid, I don't think their fullbacks will be as adventurous as they are like in La Liga. Um, but yeah, I think the battle is obviously going to be won and lost in midfield. It's such a cliche, but the experience of Madrid's midfield, if they come to the party, then they have a chance. If they can control the game, if they can dictate the tempo and not allow Liverpool to strangle them with, with the Gengen press that Klopp is so famous for, then they have a chance. But if they're not tactically disciplined, they could get embarrassed.
Looking at that midfield, and you're speaking about the strength in Real Madrid's midfield, we've got the likes of Kroos, you've got Modric. There's just so much talent in that midfield. Then you're going up against a Henderson, you're going up against a Fabinho.
Mm.
Many would say pound for pound, it's international quality against international quality. But most recently, Jordan Henderson didn't make the England squad. So,
Mhm.
where are we taking this, Lorenz? If you look at it, are you saying that if the ball is controlled within that midfield area, um, let's just say at Modric's toes, that everything will just be going in Madrid's favor?
Look, man, look in international football, especially if a team like England, it's about systems as well. So just because Jordan Henderson is not in the team doesn't mean that he's not a quality player, if you know what I mean. If
Mm,
you ask any manager in the world, especially in English football, Jordan Henderson is one of the first players they'll probably pick because he's a workhorse, he's a leader, he does the dirty work, and he's somebody that you can rely on. He's not going to give you a 4 out of 10 in the final. He's going to give you a 7 minimum. You know what I mean? He's
mm,
gonna run. He's gonna run himself into the ground, and he's also one of that players that you want if you're gonna go through the 120 minutes. He's that
mm,
player that's gonna, have a lung busting run while everybody's tweeting and praising Thiago Alcantara's no look passes. He's the guy that's, just having at last ditch tackles, kicking players, forcing goal kicks instead of corners, things like that people don't even notice. You know what I mean? And
mm,
just having that energy against a aging Real Madrid midfield is gonna be difficult for them because like Modric and Kroos are so classy. We might even see Valverde even play because of that very fact. Um, but I mean, if if you spoke to Modric and Kroos and say you're gonna come up against Jordan Henderson, that's gonna be biting at your toes. Probably say no, we're not looking forward to this game. You know what I mean? And then Fabinho
mm,
also, he's just world class at what he does. I mean, there's not many defensive midfielders in the world that we can say like, wow, like he's one of the most important players on the pitch, but he is. And with Modric, in half spaces. I mean, I think it was in the PSG game where he was so quiet, and then all of a sudden he had this no this outside foot pass, and you're like, what the hell just happened? You know what I mean?
mm,
That is the type of stuff that you want to prevent from Modric because he just needs one or two just opportunities to have that moment of brilliance, and then Benzema's gonna gobble something up, or Vinny Jr. is gonna, run at three defenders, and you know what I mean. So
mm.
it's about trying to prevent that moment of brilliance from Kroos and Modric. So yeah, it's such contrasting styles of play in that midfield. So it's gonna make for compelling viewing, definitely.
Well, over to you. We're gonna be we running a bit short on time, but if there's two players that you would pick out of this final that you think would stand out for you and definitely make an impact, who would those two players be?
On both sides, Salah and Vinny Jr. I think they're the ones who are going to open the game. Everyone's going to be watching Benzi. Everyone's going to be watching Mo Salah. Mane is the fittest I've ever seen him. He's on a really great tear right now from a form perspective. Vinny Jr., same thing for Real Madrid. He gave Cancelo problems in that semi-final, in that second leg. I see him giving Trent similar, depending on how Liverpool want to come and attack them. Must always remember that coming back, Trent isn't the greatest there. So for me, I think Mane is going to be key. I think Vinny Jr. is going to be key, and it's going to be one of those games where you have to take your chances. Each team will have 3 chances and a half. Some will take them, some won't. But we're going to see a lot of goals tomorrow. And yeah, for me, it's the fitness of Liverpool. Can they last 120? If this game goes to extra time, Real Madrid's going to win it. I don't. I think Liverpool are too tired. They like Fabinho's got injury issues. Thiago also's got injury issues. So yeah, I feel for Liverpool because I think had they played, had they had like a week's rest, they'd be fine.
No, definitely. Lorenz, your side, two players that would stand out, and what is your final score prediction on this one?
I think for me, Trent is somebody that I'll look at as somebody that likes the big stage. We know his qualities on set piece duties and free kicks as well. So I think he's going to be a crucial player, especially in tight games. You always need a set piece specialist, somebody who can, create something out of nothing. And then from Madrid side, I'll also go for Vinny Jr. And ironically, he's going to be running at Trent for most of the night. So yeah, that's going to be a very interesting battle because if Vinny Jr. is on fire, then perhaps Trent won't be as influential in attack. And then my scoreline prediction, I think it's gonna be 2-2, and I'll go to extra time and penalties, and then anybody's game after that.
Mpho, you didn't give us a final score prediction there, man.
3-2 in extra time. Benzema winning it for them.
Oh wow!
But they don't do finals.
Yeah. Now Madrid and Champions League is just like, yeah, it's just
Well, I
it
mean,
is what
if
it
you're
is.
talking of English football, you could say Liverpool and Champions League.
Yeah,
No, because Liverpool
we
lost
get-
the last final, the second, like 2 finals ago.
now we must always go back to the famous Mourinho quote of football heritage. Madrid could, play a absolute stinker, and then Benzema comes there and he wins it. You know what I mean? It's just like that pedigree of like Liverpool don't have that divine right of, oh, we must win the Champions League, where Real Madrid have that. It's just like, yeah, every season we're going for the Champions League. Whereas Liverpool, obviously under Klopp, it's been a completely different revolution. But they still, you're not in that process where it's like, oh, the fans demand, oh, if we don't win the Champions League, you must be out. You know what I mean? So I just feel it's that sort of like mentality of Madrid, even when they're in a rebuilding phase, that they have to win it. So that speaks to their 13 titles as well. So yeah, we'll see.
That all in or nothing mentality.
Exactly.
Well, gentlemen, sorry to break the news to you, but I'm a Liverpool fan and I am predicting a 3-2 Liverpool victory. I'm hoping that Mane will be scoring the final goal, putting the final nail in the coffin, and possibly extending his contract at Liverpool. I don't see a front three without Mane going forward. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's always a pleasure chatting all things football with you. We hope to do it soon, wrapping up the rest of the leagues happening around the globe. Lorenz, good luck with the Nedbank Cup final tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting one, eh? Sundowns looking for another title in the bag. Marumo looking to cause an upset. Sundowns their recent form going down to Stellies. Things not going in their favor somewhat. Do you think it would go on into this final?
It's a possibility, honestly. What's happening now? There was a major flu outbreak. They had like 23 players ruled out, but Sundowns at 23 players, they still have one of the strongest teams in the league. It's because they have 35 first team players who can slot in at any time. It's just the bench that looks a little bit weaker. So if they can maybe force the game into the latter stages, extra time, things like that. But Marumo is not a team like that. They play gang ho. It's crazy. It's like they're playing putt soccer. You know what I mean? and Dan Dance is somebody who's won the tournament with TS Galaxy with the second division team. So he also has nothing to lose. They've already qualified for the CAF Confederations Cup, which is like the Europa League. So it will be just something to enjoy for them. And the funny thing is that it's news if Marumo wins the game. It's not news if Sundowns wins the game. So I'm sure from a neutral's perspective, everybody's hoping for an upset. But you can't look past Sundowns. They're going to win the game, I think.
Well, I hope you have your headlines prepared for that one. Lorenz, thanks so much. Mpho, it's always a pleasure chatting all things football with you. Gentlemen, we're going to leave it at that for this evening. Going forward, we will be wrapping up the rest of the leagues across the globe. I'm looking forward to chatting to that one with both of you again, so we can actually get a holistic view on what exactly is going on in this crazy world of football. Thank you so much. Until we chat again, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
That was our esteemed journalist, Mpho, Mutloane, and Lorenz Kohler, giving us a bit of a breakdown on what could happen in the final tomorrow of the UEFA Champions League. Liverpool do take on Real Madrid, and kickoff will be at 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. You can catch those games on SuperSport. And obviously, for those across the globe, it will be on Sky as well. So, yeah, let's see who can win this one. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be chatting all things cricket with Lesego Pui. Telling us a bit more